The year is 2025. With Trump in the White House and his plans to make America great again and bring an end to corruption and fraud, he has chosen Kash Patel as director of the FBI. In a move to wipe out corruption in the institution, Dan Bongino, the fiery conservative commentator and relentless critic of the FBI, has been appointed its deputy director. His podcast commentary from the past year shows a loyalty to Patel and his desire for sweeping changes. Bongino, a man who was a former New York police officer and U.S. Secret Service agent, now finds himself at the FBI's second highest position. Even before Trump nominated Patel for director of the FBI, Bongino was one of his loudest advocates, arguing on his podcast that Patel was the only potential candidate that could go in there and clean up that mess. Like Patel, Bongino says that the FBI needs to expose political weaponization within the agency and move agents out of the Capitol to chase criminals elsewhere. When asked what changes he would like to see, he stated that, for one, he wants agents fired if they were involved in the investigation into Trump. If you swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States as an FBI agent and engaged in a tyrannical investigation against Donald Trump with partisan intent and not the Constitution in mind, you do not deserve your job. He said on his podcast, Bongino has also argued that the FBI has been focusing on intelligence gathering and, as a result, dropped the ball on serious crimes and overseas threats. He has labeled its agents thugs. Dan Bongino's journey to the upper echelons of the FBI is a winding and unconventional one. It's a path that has taken him from the ranks of the Secret Service to the world of right-wing media stardom. Along the way, he has transformed himself from a law enforcement officer into an outspoken political commentator, amassing a devoted following drawn to his fiery rhetoric and no-holds-barred approach. Bongino's career in law enforcement began with the New York City Police Department. He later joined the elite ranks of the United States Secret Service, where he served on protective details for both President George W. Bush and President Barack Obama. After leaving the Secret Service in 2011, Bongino embarked on a new path. He entered the world of conservative media, quickly becoming a fixture on Fox News and other right-wing outlets. It was in this arena that Bongino honed his skills as a provocateur, railing against what he saw as the excesses of the left and the deep state. His rhetoric grew increasingly heated, particularly in the wake of Donald Trump's election in 2016. Bongino's transformation from law enforcement officer to right-wing firebrand was complete. He had found his calling, and it was not in the halls of government, but in the studios of conservative media. Few institutions have been subjected to the kind of sustained and vitriolic attacks that Dan Bongino has leveled against the FBI. For years, he has used his considerable platform to wage a relentless campaign against the Bureau, pointing out the corruption, incompetence, and anti-conservative bias. One of Bongino's most consistent lines of attack has been to accuse the FBI of being a political weapon wielded by the left against its enemies. He has repeatedly claimed that the Bureau is engaged in a witch hunt against conservatives, pointing to investigations into Donald Trump and his allies as evidence of this. He has even gone so far as to accuse the FBI of being complicit in a deep state plot to undermine Trump's presidency. Bongino's attacks on the FBI have not been limited to broadsides against the institution as a whole. He has also targeted individual agents, accusing them of being motivated by political animus and engaging in unethical and possibly illegal conduct. He has called for the firing of numerous FBI officials, including former Director James Comey and former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. In Bongino's telling, the FBI is not a flawed but essential institution charged with upholding the law and protecting the nation. Instead, it's a rogue agency operating outside the bounds of the Constitution, more interested in pursuing its own political agenda than in serving the American people. He stated, "We are going to make the FBI great again, because if we don't have an FBI breaking up counter-terrorist plots trying to kill us, and they are worried about moms for liberty and pro-lifers, then we got a problem, folks." With his appointment as deputy director of the FBI, Dan Bongino now has the opportunity to translate his words into action. Bongino has outlined an ambitious agenda for the FBI, one that involves a radical restructuring of the agency and a fundamental shift in its priorities. He has vowed to root out what he sees as corruption and politicization within the Bureau, promising a house cleaning of officials deemed disloyal to the Constitution. Beyond personnel changes, Bongino has called for a dramatic downsizing of the FBI's presence in Washington, D.C., advocating for a dispersal of agents to field offices across the country. He has repeatedly called for investigations into prominent Democrats, including Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. He has a big task ahead of him and hope he, with his boss Patel, achieve what they set out to do.